Today we're going to talk about the 2-4, the 24-hour club. I'm here with Tim and Marsha, and we're going to dive deeper into a residential recovery program here in Dallas.
Who is OurCalling? What does OurCalling do to help the homeless?
The nonprofit.
We care with dignity.
OurCalling.
Can't help but think about the definition of Christian.
We connect with intentionality.
Called OurCalling.
It's to our calling.
We build community with integrity.
This is Our Calling and our podcast, a word on the streets about homelessness. Well, I'm here with Marsha and Tim. Ladies first. Marsha, tell me who you are and what you've done at the 24-hour club for so many years.
Okay. I am a happily married woman to my husband of 48 years as of last week.
Wow.
And thank you. It's been an accomplishment. We had 3 sons. We had lost our oldest son to addiction and mental illness. And so that's been a huge component of who I am now. We have a great relationship with our other 2 sons who are 42 and 36, who really suffered during that time. Mm-hmm. And we've had a lot of healing, which by God's grace. I have been in the workforce for most of our married life and was really, my DNA is nonprofit. And that was centered in the beginning in a church, in 2 churches actually. And then I had a consulting firm that I did nonprofit consulting with. And one of the jobs landed me at Dallas 24-Hour Club. Mm. And I knew about addiction from a personal standpoint and attending Al-Anon, but I did not know really anything about how to run a facility like Dallas 24-Hour Club, which we finally called the 2-4. Thank goodness Tim was there, and he knew the ropes, and I was really good at helping solve complex problems, and we had our hands full with those types of things. So that's, I think, my calling. God placed me there to help, stabilize the place, get some operations into place, get a new building, and really start formulating a wonderful supportive staff that we now have.
So you worked there for how long?
10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
As the...
First as a consultant. There's been a miscommunication. I was not the CEO for 10 years, which we're going to have to correct that. In March of 2014, I took over as the interim and then was hired full-time in June of 14. And during that time, we were struggling until 2018 when we opened our new building. What we were teaching in our program to help people accept long-term sobriety was working, but the nuts and bolts were not working. So I got to be a part of that solution.
That's so fun.
It was.
Awesome. And Tim?
Well, Marsha still works for the 24-Hour Club. I just want to be straight up with y'all. So she transitioned last year from CEO and retired, and then they asked me kind of what I wanted to do. I took over on September 1st, and I said, well, the first order of business would be re-signing Marsha as a consultant for fundraising and kind of board relations. That's not my strong point. It is her strong point. I want to learn from her and grow in that area. And she gracefully accepted. And so she's still involved as a CEO emeritus and does such wonderful work and builds relationships with people. So she's still going strong, just on a part-time basis.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So you guys have said something, and you've said it in 2 different ways, and I want to clarify the 24-hour club, and then you said the 2-4. What is the 24-hour club, and why is it now called the 2-4?
Well, the 24-Hour Club's the best place on the planet. It's a transitional sober living for homeless alcoholics and addicts, and we really want to help people learn how to stay sober and stay housed permanently. And that's one piece, is the transitional living. Our legal name is Dallas 24-Hour Club, but around the community, even a guy like Wayne would say the 2-4, where I'm at the 2-4, meet me at the 2-4, go to the 2-4 if you need help for anything. And so that's what it's referred to But Marsha made the legal name Dallas 24-Hour Club back in 2014. And it's really kind of about the brand, but it's more than just transitional living. It's more than just a house where people sleep and go to meetings. It's kind of a living, breathing organization. And one of the things, there's a few things that make us unique, and one of them is that we're open to the public. Anybody can walk in there at any time and ask for help for anything. And a lot of times those people come in and we help them live there and get off the street and learn how to stay sober and get a job and get some life skills and learn how to budget. And, the list kind of goes on and on and on. But a lot of those people either don't qualify to live there, aren't ready to be there, need acute hospitalization, need something else than what we can provide. And so we do a lot of referrals out. We also host one of our main objectives as an organization is to be a 12-step venue. So we host about 39 12-step meetings per week, which is a lot. I mean, it's over 2,000 meetings a year.
Wow.
And that it's if some people call it a ministry, man. Like our ministry is to help those that are hurting from drugs and alcohol and homelessness. Another thing that makes us unique is you don't have to have anything to start. You come in, give us your hungry, give us your broken, give us your hurting, and we know how to guide those people and kind of nurse them back to health, mentally, physically, spiritually, and hopefully have that transformational change to lose the desire to use drugs and alcohol, and also teach pertinent life skills and help people get on the right track so they can stay housed and not return to the streets.
I think you said this, but I'm going to ask Marsha to clarify why 24-Hour Club? Of all the names, what's significant about that?
Well, actually, that was the name well before I got there. We've been in existence 55 years in June. I think that it symbolizes that we are present 24 hours a day. So if someone knocks on our door at 3 a.m., we're going to try to help them. Many people that are from the public need help at odd hours of the day. Generally, when our residents come, they're in a really structured environment. So we have 24-hour awake staff that is guiding them, but also really helping the public.
That's amazing. From my perspective here at OurCalling, we get a lot of people into different programs. And there's always this time barrier. They don't do intake at 9 a.m. and some of them stop at noon or some 2 o'clock, and it's different for all of them. But what you're saying is 24 hours a day, someone can show up and they'll be greeted
Yes.
and welcomed in.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to be clear that doesn't mean sometimes we house somebody overnight that is coming in if there's a critical need, but usually we resource them out in the middle of the night, but we don't let them just be by themselves where they can be harmed.
Wow.
Because, we know that homeless people are very vulnerable.
39 meetings a week. Why 39? I mean, why not 40 or 38? I mean, what is it about that? Is that a recipe that works with your schedule?
It's not our schedule. And each group that meets at the 24-Hour Club is independent. And we act as kind of the conduit. And people will come to us and say, hey, I would like to bring a meeting to the 24-Hour Club. We want to meet down there. We want to start a group. I think that rents are not only making it harder to be housed, but it's also harder to have a 12-step meeting, an AA meeting, an NA meeting, a CA meeting, because rents are up.
Yeah.
And you have to find some kind of benevolent organization like a church or something like that where you can meet. The old, clubhouse is becoming very hard to have, where you can kind of have a place to eat and have a place to meet all the time. And so it really has been an attraction piece of people coming to us and saying, okay, we've got this time on Saturday and Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Is that when you want to have a meeting? Let's start there.
And are some of those groups that everybody comes from outside, or are they just meeting with your residents?
Open to the public.
So all those meetings are.
Every meeting is open to the public that we have. It's one of the main purposes of the 24-hour club. A lot of people in recovery and a lot of people just in general believe that by helping others, we help ourselves. Mm-hmm. But it's especially true with people in recovery. I mean, we have to if we want to stay clean. And you'll hear it in the recovery rooms. Go down to the 24-hour club. Go down to the 24-hour club. Or you have if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling squirrely, if you're feeling depressed, go down to the 24-hour club and try to find somebody to help, because you will find someone. And by have a recurring commitment to come do a meeting or something like that, you're putting yourself in a high, not risk, a high people that need help environment.
Sure.
On a regular basis.
So I want to be careful we don't use inside terms that nobody understands, right?
Sure.
Baseball guys, football guys use these terms. You said a clubhouse. I'm familiar with what that is, right? Storefront, usually a triangle with a circle on the door, and it means this is a place for some kind of 12-step recovery meeting. And I've been into a lot of those. You know, you go in, and usually you can tell because of the puff of cigarette smoke coming out the door. You know, but it's a place where there's usually AA meetings, and so it's traditionally a clubhouse where you're having 12-step meetings, NASA, CA. But you guys are that clubhouse, but a 24-hour entry point, right?
Correct.
We're the host.
You're the host.
We host them, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that's so beautiful is that we feel like we really help the public because it encourages them to stay sober, but it also helps our residents to have people coming in from the outside that can say, look, you can do this. They can be mentors or sponsors. They can have a cup of coffee with them in our dining facility or have a meal with them. That's really the hub of the 2-4 is the Hubcap Cafe, because fellowship is so critical as a component of recovery.
I think the word club is important because, if someone wasn't familiar with the, addiction recovery world, they would think, well, is it like Sam's Club or like, some kind of exclusive club? But it means club, like a clubhouse in recovery, open 24 hours a day. And then you said a cafe. Describe what that is.
Well, we have a full-service cafe restaurant that's open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It is staffed by our residents, and we have a kitchen supervisor that is a person who's come through the kitchen training program and is now in a leadership position. That person is full-time, is on benefits, and then those that are line cooks, they have a 6-month training program. And once they're completed, we try to place them in restaurants around the community, which we have several of our supporters have restaurants, and they welcome them. In fact, we were just with someone a little earlier today, and he said, I have got 2 fabulous women from the 2-4 who are hostesses, and they're the best we've ever had.
Wow.
He said they don't have the right clothing for nighttime hostessing, so we're going to buy them a wardrobe.
Oh, wow.
And I was like blown away.
That's so
How
awesome.
beautiful that your employer cares that much. But he's in recovery.
That's
He
so
gets it.
awesome. So I went into the old facility many times.
Me too.
And,
Tim was a resident.
Oh, you were a resident.
Well, and that's how I got my introduction to the 24-hour club. Was in 2010. I was living at a halfway house in East Dallas that wasn't the 24-hour club, and there were some guys who were really passionate about helping others, and I'm still friends with those people today because they were doing the things that they needed to do to make them free. And I wasn't quite ready for that. And there were several times when they said, hey, do you want to go to a meeting? Do you want to go to a meeting? And so I went with them up there, and I said, I'll never stay in that place. And
Why is that?
I wasn't humbled. And I thought I was better than it. And what happened was I went back out and went back to kind of the streets and drugs and alcohol, and I came back crawling. I when I wanted to finally check in, I called all the other places where I had been in the past, but this time I didn't have any money or any insurance or anything like that, and so I had nowhere to go. And the 24-hour club did not care about money or insurance or where I'm from or who I was or who I knew. they just cared about one thing: is do you want to stay sober, and are you willing to follow some simple rules? And they welcomed me in. And the old 24-hour club was a different beast. Obviously, the physical plant was not as neat and nice as it is now. But man, I loved it. And I think the reason I've been to a lot of nice places, Wayne, but the reason why I loved it is because I started changing on the inside. And when I changed on the inside, things on the outside looked differently. And I was I had a lot of gratitude for the 24-hour club and living there. And it's where that I established a relationship with God.
Wow. So it's a place that's open 24 hours a day. The word club is from the clubhouses for AA and recovery. And there's 39 meetings there from outside groups that come in. You guys are teaching me a lot. You're going to quiz me on this in a minute. Do you have a cafe? And I hear the pancakes are awesome, right? Open pretty much 7 to 10. And then 365 days a year, so every day. But the most impactful part of the 24-hour club is this residential process where someone doesn't just come for a breakfast or doesn't just come for a meeting, doesn't just come for a, hey, can you help me for a minute, but actually gets into the living long-term recovery process as a residential recovery program, right?
Right.
So how many beds for men and women do you guys have?
Up to 90.
Okay, up to 90 beds for men and women to come in. And what's the process look like? Someone comes in and says, hey, I want to come in. I want to get off the streets. I want to get clean and sober. What's that look like?
Yeah, we're going to spend a little time with them and get to know them because we have certain criteria. You have to have a substance abuse problem. You have to have some type of identification. We run everybody's background. You can't have any aggravated crimes, sex offenses, or arsons. And, if a person qualifies first of all, if they don't qualify, we're never going to leave them hanging. We always provide referrals, transportation, bus passes, whatever they need to get the help that they need. We're going to break our backs trying to get it. But if they do qualify to live at the 24-hour club, we're going to welcome them in. We're going to provide hygiene, linens, clothes, medical care through Parkland Homes, and food for your first 30 days through the Hubcap Cafe. We have a lot of generous donors like Trader Joe's, many other places. That's a primary purpose of the Hubcap Cafe is to provide food for our residents for their first 30 days and then train up to 4 people. And then we sell low-cost food to the rest of the community and the rest of the residents and try to break even in the kitchen. We try to keep our costs low because our people don't make that much money.
Yeah.
Especially when they're starting out. And we have a 3-phase system where when you come in, we need structure, support, accountability, random and scheduled drug testing, breathalyzing. Everybody has to go to a meeting every night. You wake up at 6 a.m, do some chores, eat some breakfast, either work or go look for work. And, you have to get kind of a mentor or somebody to help you that's not associated with the 24-hour club. It can't be a 24-hour club employee. And so you get somebody who kind of sponsors you and helps you through the recovery process. And we think that's really important to get somebody outside of our staff, just a person who's doing it to help themselves, but also help others.
Now, how would they meet them? So if I'm living at the 24-hour club, but I have to get a sponsor from someone that doesn't work there, how am I going to meet somebody?
They're there.
They're coming in for meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
They come to meetings, and also we pass out a lot of numbers.
Okay.
Sometimes our staff will help connect people. Sometimes you get a good sense of, hey, Wayne would be a good guy for this. Marsha would be a good person for this. They have to meet and just kind of get back into the swing of life. We're very undisciplined. We don't follow, we're up all night and everything like that. And phase 1 is just a real reset. It's very strict. It's very, you have to be here at this time and here at this time and here at this time. And as you make progress, both in your sobriety and your life, you step down.
You get some freedoms.
Yeah. And then over time, like that would be kind of the phase 2, which can last up to 6 months. And then we actually have some apartments, which is another miracle, like low income housing, which is our third phase, which can last up to a year, where people can work on like credit repair and saving money to get ready for that next step of their life.
Okay, so someone comes in to the 24-hour club and they come in for breakfast, they come in for a meeting. At some point they come in and say, hey, I really want to get clean and to quit messing around. And so you guys do a thorough evaluation interview with them, make sure that they don't have a terrible criminal background and not going to hurt anybody there and have an ID. And then you let them stay there. And I hear you say there's a couple of phases. Marsha, at what point, if I'm there and I know I've got some sobriety and meetings to go to every day, because you guys require them to work,
Yes.
right? At what point do they have to get a job, and how do you guys help them find jobs?
Well, fortunately, we are located on a very busy commercial street, Ross Avenue. And so when we say to a new person, you don't have to get the job, you have to get a job. Because we want you out working, learning how to manage your time, being a good person, being a good employee. So often they will, find a job at a fast food restaurant or the U-Haul store or a grocery store. All those kinds of jobs are readily available. And then as they get more stable, then they can start looking for something that's more in their former line of work. Or, we are now providing education so we can help them get something that is going to have a living wage. And that is really important. We can talk about that a little bit later, but we really believe that work ethic is important. We believe that them paying a small fee, once they get a job, is important for them to learn how to manage their money, manage their time.
So they come in, they get a job locally, a job, doesn't have to be the perfect job, but just a job. You're teaching them life skills. They have to get up in the morning to do chores. They're still going to meetings. And after a while, they have to start contributing, paying, just to be have ownership in there.
Right.
Right? And then you said you do some training, some education for better employment. What does that look like?
We have formed some really exciting partnerships with Dallas College. They have a Work Ready You program that has been a huge blessing to many of our residents because in a 17-week period, for example, you can get your first leg up in getting your welding certification. Welders make good money. They have a variety of programs. Like you can be a customer service person at an Omni Hotel. We have lots of connections with hotels owners that we can help place them in jobs once they finish that. So that's been a really exciting new component. It's cost-free. It is hard. They work all day and then they've got to go to school at night for, several days a week. We also are working on having a successful partnership with Texas Tech University, either online or in person. But they really want to welcome our people. They see the value of having someone who's been homeless, have experienced homelessness, and are ready to get their education. That is amazing to me. It was easy for me to get my degree because I didn't have to deal with all of the other stressors of remembering who I was and where I was and what time of day it was. I was very well supported. Our residents aren't. So we become that family person for them to help them. We also are working with the Construction Financial Management Association. They have a foundation called Construction Education Foundation, and we are working to have a program put into place by next fall where we can hopefully send 10, hopefully 20 of our people to their programming that would then prepare them to get their plumber's license and welding and all of the, HVAC, all those things that are so helpful. And the construction industry is really hurting. The labor is short. There's a huge labor shortage.
There's a couple other things, Wayne. Kind of breaking news. We've formed a partnership with Bank of America to come teach better money habits. So that's once a month. It's a 6.
Can I sign up for that?
Yeah.
Carolyn says yes.
Yes.
So it's a 6-month curriculum at the phase 3, and it's a 3-month curriculum at the main facility. And we have a new career coach coming through to do kind of employment readiness, really wherever a person's at. If they already have a job and they're looking for a better job to make more money, she helps prepare them for that. If a person is unemployable, she helps with resumes and trying to get that first job through relationships with second chance employers. And then we also have monthly life skills. So really, and like a legal program, legal advocacy. And so there's several different strategies we're using to reduce those barriers to long-term recovery and housing. And we're seeing great dividends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hear all the time, how come homeless guys just don't get a job? Get a job, right? You hear all the time. Well, there's so many barriers to that. First barrier is it's kind of hard to work a job when you have to go poop behind a building and take a bath at a sink, right? So having a safe place, you know, one of the things we talk about at OurCalling is we want stability before we talk about sustainability, right? Just a stable environment where you can lock a door and you're not afraid for your life. So people can go to the 24-hour club and they can have a stable place. That first month, just kind of catch up on sleep, eat good food, start building relationships, learn how to be a part of a community, going to your meetings, and then they start looking for a job. And then you're helping them not only learn how to work a job, but the life skills to keep a job. Everybody's had jobs, not everybody can keep a job. And then you've got third phase housing, you've got Bank of America teaching bank classes and career coaching. What's next?
Well, let me back up 2 years. In May, it's coming up 2 years. That was when we really were starting for the first time to collect data. And we were really, trying to start analyzing, is our program working? And we wanted to be able to communicate that to externally to people who might want to donate or to foundations, who want that kind of information. But also it was really critical for internal purposes for us to see, is that program working for Tim and why is it not? And so we could start spotting problems. And for me, I literally felt like it was the light bulb turned on. We were watching our recidivism rate, which, the revolving door, that rate was not going down. And yet we were having all of these successful completions of our program from residents, but they were coming back. And it was the reason, not always the reason, but a large degree, the reason was they successfully graduated. They were prepared for the outside world. They had been living, in a supportive situation. And most of them didn't have a car. The only affordable housing, which I'm tired of that term because we're not solving that problem, was out in an area where they didn't have public transportation. So eventually, quickly usually, they got back into poverty, and then they went back into homelessness and then addiction. So that's when we really started focusing on life skills and education to say we can't just focus on long-term recovery. That is great. That has to be primary, absolutely primary. If we don't teach that, then you can't be successful in any part of your life. So when we started doing that, it really has reduced our recidivism rate tremendously from 2022 to 2023. Can you give me those stats?
Yeah, we were down from about 29% to 18%.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty significant. There was a lot of things came in, including phase 3 at that point, that we really believe the maybe failure to launch or when people were leaving the main facility, we really believe we've made some lasting impact changes on that.
It's amazing because, we get people in lots of programs, like about 800 different programs. Some of them are 30-day programs. The likelihood of you surviving and staying clean and sober and connected after that, it's just, I don't know why. Then you have 6-month programs, and it's a little bit better. Then you have 9-month, 12-month programs. But what you guys have said is, look, you go through the program. It's, I think, a month, you said the first phase, and then you got 6 more months. And then you have housing to give people a stable environment to live in. So they're still connected. They're still getting accountability. They're maybe still going to meetings. They're still in a safe environment.
They're still getting drug tested.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just drop people off in the middle of society where society's hard.
Right.
And you put them in the most dangerous, drug-infested apartments because that's all they can afford.
Right.
And then they're expected to stay clean and sober. It just seems impossible.
Well, and that's what my mind says too, but we needed something to back that up. So we had a clinical psychologist, his name's Dr. Ben Albritton, write a paper on length to stay. And what from his research, from his data, from his experience, what what is the most long-lasting situation. And it's his expert opinion that if you stay a year or more, your chances are way better. I don't have the exact stats in front of me. So we wanted a program where people had the opportunity to have the best outcome. And I think really that's what's next for the 24-hour club
Yes.
is refining our wraparound services for our people, statistical collection for people once they leave, which is very hard to do, but we're working on it. Refining that process, perhaps some type of hub and spoke model where the main facility is the hub, the Tillman Apartments is the first spoke, and maybe there's other spokes, maybe even a phase 4, especially just where, in Dallas, the single family home or single family apartment dream is kind of getting crunched with just the rents and everything like that. We're thinking about alternate forms of housing and sober living past the Tillman house, because where do you go back then? Extending the runway, but not in a way that needs to be significantly financially supported through fundraising efforts, things that will support themselves with one capital investment.
Like an Oxford House group home kind of thing?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But it would be run differently. We would have staff oversight. We think that is really preferential. And we have, even at our apartment complex, we have a full-time staff member, and then we have resident staff liaisons, which that's one of the part-time staff positions we have that has been so incredibly effective, because they are residents that live amongst their peers, but they are staff members. And they observe and report, encourage, provide mentorship, and that's a 6-month program. And many of them, we teach them get a lot of certifications, as well as teaching how to be in the treatment field. And many of our staff liaisons have gone on to be in treatment centers.
Wow.
And have jobs there.
I can't imagine the frustration that you guys face, because we face very similar frustrations, is when people get into housing that's not supported. Maybe they get a visit once or twice a month.
Yep.
That doesn't do much
Nope.
for me, right? It's like saying I'm going to eat once or twice a month, right? Someone that's struggling with all the challenges that led them there, then you get them into a place where they're isolated and they have once a month or once every other, twice a month kind of visits. You're talking about a resident staff member every day checking on you, checking your pulse. Are you doing okay?
Giving you drug tests.
Yeah, when you're mad at the middle of the night, instead of going out and getting high again, someone in there to sit, calm you down, and to walk you through the process, and continuing that drug test, continuing that relationship. That's really, really awesome.
And I think community is, I mean, what do we do, right? We help build an ecosystem where recovery is fertile soil to plant seeds, right? And the community of the 24-hour club, our residents, are definitely the best asset for new people coming in. Because if you have been there for 3 days, then you know how to help somebody with 0 days.
Yeah.
And it's like just a continue to help the next person. That's a big part of our program, is mentorship. So the phase 2 residents mentor the phase 1 resident on their intake. They're immediately plugged in. They hear the rules. They get a tour from a resident, right? And then within 3 days, our Tillman residents, our phase 3 residents, are required to come almost intervene on them and say, what do you know about recovery? Here's my number. Here's 2 jobs that I know that are hiring. Here's 2 guys that you could call at any point in time. And they're building recovery capital all this time. So from the first 3 days, like, they already have their sober support network has grown. You start feeling a part of.
One of the things I say when we talk about homelessness here at OurCalling is that the number one contributing factor to homelessness is broken community.
Yes.
It's not drugs, not alcohol, it's not money, that's important, right? It's not mental health, it's broken community. Because when you are in that space where, frankly, no one gives a damn, or you've burned every bridge, right? Doesn't matter what it is, it pushes you over the edge. You have no money, and just some little crisis with no community just sends you spiraling.
Well, and I think that we've really done a good job of training our staff to not be the parent, but be that guide, that supporter, that encourager. And and give them solutions. Don't just keep pointing out the problems, which is, I think, what's happened in their broken community. The family just gave up. They couldn't take that anymore.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, I love the peer-to-peer recovery support is so important.
The best.
But to mention the safety part, going back to that, we are open to the public. However, we have locked doors between the public and the residential area. We have a locked door between the women's area. And I think because when you come in, you're pretty paranoid, you're pretty frightened, you're pretty beat up, if not physically, definitely emotionally and spiritually, that we want to provide that environment that keeps them, helps them immediately to feel safe.
So you talk about the trauma people bring in when they come. You know, fight or flight is important. We all have that. We look forward to it. It's good. It helps us, you know, when something scary happens. But, you know, someone experiencing homelessness has been stuck in that fight or flight mode for so long they can't get out of it. And so they're always paranoid, always looking over their shoulder. And they should, because it's a scary, scary environment.
Survival.
Wow. Faith. Now, when I read the big book, right, the AA book, and gone through AA meetings, you know, it talks about a God of our understanding, right, a higher power. What is the faith? Is there a faith component to the 2-4?
Well, I think as you know, the 12 steps are gospel-centered. So what we love is when, you know, they get down to step 4, step 5, they start, the God light turns on. We don't proselytize. We're not a Christian ministry. However, we certainly are open if a resident approaches us. And we, as a staff, we pray together. We believe in the God. We believe in the Lord. And that's a beautiful picture alone, because every Monday at 2, we have staff meeting, and there's prayer requests. There are prayers for one another, and we check on one another throughout the following week. But yes, God is in the house, 100%.
Yeah.
So we're spiritual, non-religious as an organization, and but I mean, it's, you know, the book is very clear. We have to find a higher power. We must, or else. And so that is what we're coming out of. You know, that's our solution.
Yeah, I've met so many people over the years that, you know, tell me the story that, you know, they were praying to the doorknob because that's what got them in there, or praying to the carpet, that's what holding them up, or praying to their grandmother or something. And finally, at some point, you realize that higher power is not very high.
Yeah, that's not
Right.
going to get it.
And kind of left me kind of the Paul at Mars Hill. There's an unknown God, and I don't know who he is. And that's where there's an opportunity to talk about Christ. I think that's beautiful.
Well, and our residents talk about Jesus all the time.
Yeah.
And they really do more to influence and present the gospel to their fellow residents than anybody else. And that is such a beautiful picture to me, is that because if we don't have Christ in our life, then we really struggle to get back on the right track and stay on the right track.
Wow, that's amazing. You guys have just given me such, I mean, I feel like I could go speak at a fundraiser for the 2-4 residents.
Well, please do.
Anytime.
Wait,
bring
what?
it.
No,
Yeah. I mean, to me, what you guys do is so holistic. Being welcoming and open at any time, 24 hours a day, for people to come in, and then being able to help them with that entire process, from picking them up off the street, right, in that moment of addiction, and all the way through not only living in a safe environment, but learning how to be human again, learning how to build community and be a part of a community, and doing chores, and then getting a job, and then better employment, and then education, and then housing. I mean, it feels like
Reconnecting
everything.
with your family.
Yeah.
That's a big goal. We have a really strong alumni program too, because we know that another way to stay sober is for them to be connected to us. So we try to have, we have an alumni group, the Friends of the 2-4. We have an advocates group that does things for the community. They may not have been a resident. And we have sober fun events, because we really want it to be that family-like environment. And I laugh all the time because occasionally a family member will come in with their loved one. That's pretty rare. And the first thing the mother says is, "Can he call me on his cell phone? Can he have a cell phone? Can he have his car?" I said, "Sure." We are locked down from the standpoint you have to meet curfew. But that's your job to meet curfew, not our job. And they are so relieved, because as one of our staff members says all the time, when I went into treatment, all I was thinking about how many days left for 30 days so I could get out. I didn't try to build relationships with anybody else at that treatment center. He said, when I came to the 2-4, I found a family. And it's true.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
You know, one thing about faith, Wayne, like I always tell people, we don't want people to come to the 24-hour club and live in the 24-hour club and stay sober at the 24-hour club and then go back out and smoke crack.
Yeah.
We want to, but I understand it, that when you come in and you're coming off the streets and you don't know how to stay sober, you put your faith and your reliance in the 24-hour club, and that's good. You should. We're there for you. But we want to transition your faith and dependence from the 24-hour club to God. While you're there, that's a spiritual transformation. And faith without works is dead, right? And so, like, we can have faith all day long, but the works, those simple 12 things that we ask people to do, you know, when you're angry, do this. When you're afraid, do this. Go back and clean up the wreckage of your past. Like, yeah, we believe in, while you're living in a transitional living for homeless, we believe in going back and paying for the wreckage of your past. It doesn't sound right, but that's the path, you know? And by faith and by works, a person can stay sober, but not without, I don't believe you can do it without each other. You know,
Those
it's
have
like
to go together.
They have to go together.
And maybe action is a better word than works, I think, for me, because it is taking action. It's cleaning up those things. Because I think that we get too scared of the word works because that, you know, we don't, anyway, that's a whole biblical situation.
Well, we're not talking about, you know,
Right.
evangelism,
miracles.
right?
Yeah,
We're not
right.
talking about Ephesians 2:8-9. We're talking about that.
Talking about
you know, in
James.
order to be sober, we have to have a strong belief and a strong willpower to do the right things and be around the right people and to say yes and to say no at the right times, to do the work, go through the 12 steps, seek reconciliation, work through the wreckage of your past, and then continue and to help others do the same, the 12th
Yes.
step, right?
Correct.
Service.
That's awesome.
And I think one thing that Marsha mentioned is like, we always want to be family-like. So, and you can tell me to stop whenever, Wayne, but I mean, we don't want to be institutional. We don't want to say, oh, Marsha Williamson, she's number 11111. Like, I want to know Marsha Williamson. I want to know where she's from. I want to know a little bit about her story. I want to personally talk to each person that enters in the club and welcome them, let them know that I'm available, have an open door policy, family-like environment of just getting to know the real person and spending time with them and not just stamp their file.
Wow.
And I think that makes lasting change.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for this time. And thanks for the opportunity for us to learn more about the 2-4.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you guys are the best.
Yes.